Hello, and welcome to Eloqua Office Hours, our monthly discussion for Eloqua professionals. I'm Al Arceo, Account Director here at Forethought Marketing, and I'll be your host today. As a reminder, today's session is being recorded. You'll receive a replay link via email tomorrow. And if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature to help us keep organized. And regarding today's speaker, we've got Richard Holder, the Director of Marketing here at Forethought Marketing, will be presenting today, and he has been with Forethought Marketing for 5 years. Prior to joining us, Richard spent 7 years at Visa, where he held the position of Director of Marketing Operations. He has over 15 years of experience using Eloqua and brings a wealth of knowledge to today's discussion. And with that, take it away, Richard.
All right, thank you, Al, and thank you, everyone who is joining today. I really appreciate everyone who also submitted questions so that we could tackle them during today's session, and also to those who provided some suggestions and insights into how they're doing reducing email fatigue in their own systems and optimizing their emails. So that's very helpful, and I plan to incorporate all of those suggestions. So today we're going to be talking about some top reasons for email failure. And I'm going to go through a series of these. These are not necessarily in order of importance, but I think they are generally a good guideline. I'm also not going to cover everything because there are many, many reasons we could go on for hours for this, but we'll try to cover some top ones. So the first one is an obvious one, and that is when you've just got bad data in your system. Whether the emails have gone inactive, they're no longer responding, they're unengaged, so they're in your system, but they're just lurking, or they become invalid and they're no longer reachable, but you still have them in your system. So keeping these clean is important in order for you to keep your deliverability high. Another reason for email failure is poor segmentation. And I think we're all guilty of this at some point in our career. And it is something that we need to work hard at, because there's nothing worse than receiving an email that completely doesn't apply to you. And whether that's a demographic reason, a message that's intended for a particular part of the world that goes to the wrong place, or the messaging is targeted to a particular level within an organization. It's too high or too low in terms of its messaging. And so you would be better to segment and target by level and make sure those messages are resonating with that audience. The lack of personalization, and I'm not talking just about having dear first name. Personalization goes a lot further than that. I'm also not talking about what seems to be vogue today, especially with initial emails, is sending super personalized emails that go on and have information that's obviously AI generated. That is a big turnoff, and that's one of the best ways to have your customers or your prospects hit that unsubscribe button. So be careful. Then one that we're going to talk about today in more detail is sending too many emails. There are times when a person is going to expect to receive emails. For example, if you sign up for something, you're likely to receive a welcome email and a series of instructions. And those should probably come every day for a period of time. And you should let the person know in advance that you're going to receive a series of emails. I signed up for a service recently, and they told me this is 1 of 6, this is 2 of 6. So I have a clear expectation of how many I'm going to receive. So this is important. Don't send too many emails, because then they'll get tired of you and they can stop paying attention. And the worst thing they can do is opt out, or more importantly, have a bad experience and then just ignore your company, even if they don't opt out. Sending irrelevant or low quality content. This goes hand in hand with segmentation. If you send information to someone and it's just not relevant to them, or it's low quality, again, you're going to give them a bad experience. Um, One of my pet peeves is sending an email to someone who is already registered for an event and you keep inviting them versus taking them out of the list. That is a simple example of how sending in irrelevant information or sending a message to somebody who is opted out of a particular service or has no need of it, or has expressed a preference that this is not something I want to talk about or hear about from you. I want to make sure that I get these topics covered. So those are super important things to keep in mind to ensure your content is high quality. Now, we're going to dive a little bit more into two of these, the inactive and unengaged contacts, and then ways to control sending too many emails. And in the title of the email that you received inviting you to this, we talked about stoplights. So that's what we're going to do today. Um, If you would like us to cover these other topics I'm not going to do today, poor segmentation, etc., personalization, let us know in the Q&A if these are topics that are interesting to you, and we'll put them on the agenda for some upcoming sessions. So please give us that feedback. All right. So what are some best practices for reducing basically bad email contacts? So the first and probably the best way of reducing this is to validate the email during the form submit. And it's always great to, not let the bad person into the castle at the gate. So you want to make sure you're protecting yourself. This may not be possible for everyone, but it's certainly a solution that will work for most. And we strongly encourage it. It can have a significant impact on improving the quality of the emails that you have in your system by confirming that when they submitted a form, that the information is accurate and this is a reachable contact. So monitor your soft bounce back history. This is actually a report that I don't think everyone is familiar with because it can give you some very valuable information about some of the people who are not receiving your messages due to a soft bounce back. And these could be technical issues, of course, but many times they are messages that have to do with spam tracking and spam blocking technologies. And unless you're looking at this particular report, you may not be aware of things that are happening behind the scenes. Some of those are actionable on your part, and you should be taking action, like working with the spam blocking vendors to get yourself removed if you find yourself there, and clearly you're not a spammer. But you're going to need to take some action. So monitoring that is a great way to ensure that you are staying on top of that. Um, One of the suggestions we received was one of the viewers who said that when they do get new soft bounce backs, they use an email validation tool to recheck. So not only could they have validated during the form submit, but they're going to revalidate again because it's possible that the person is moved from that company. And so they're going to double check. And if they are no longer valid, then they're going to take action, which might be removing them or taking some other action. But again, that's another way to increase the quality and ensure that you don't have inactive contacts and unreachable contacts as well that could potentially be hurting your sender score. Pause or remove contacts with high soft bounce. We're going to talk a little bit about that in more detail and give you a specific example how you might do that. And then remove inactive contacts. And when I talk about inactive, I'm talking about somebody who has received communication from you, but there are no clicks and no form submits. Now, I put an asterisk there because there is a caveat to this. I know that there are people who are lurkers. They almost seem to be professional lurkers, um, because they care about what you are sending to them. They see value in it, but it is not immediately actionable. So they remain relatively dormant. But then you have an event where you invite them and they are attending. So they automatically reactivate themselves. So think carefully about automatically removing inactive contacts because they could be lurkers. And a strategy might be to invite inactive contacts to, um, to update their preferences to make sure you're targeting them. Which leads me to the next option. If they become inactive, send them a last chance email campaign where you are upfront with them. It's been a while since we've heard from you, and we want to make sure that you still want to receive these, or go to your preference page and let us know which topics you're most interested in. And then if they don't take any action, that would be a great time to perhaps remove them from your system and not include them. When you clean up these contacts who are invalid and so forth, you're going to not only avoid the problems that spam has with it, but you're also going to make your metrics more accurate because the total sends are going to be more accurate because you're going to be talking about those you can reach and those who are engaged as well as the other metrics that you're going to be gathering. So um, that's a good idea. So let me pause here to see if there are any questions, Al.
All right, let me check the list here. Yeah, we did have something come through on Q&A. It is, do you recommend deleting contacts from the database with more than a specific number of soft bounces?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm actually going to hold that if I could, because I'm going to talk about it a little bit in the next section. So that's a great question. It's almost like you were reading my mind. So thank you. All right, let's move on. The last best practice I'm going to share here is make unsubscribing and managing email preferences easy. This may seem a little counterintuitive why you're being so open and about unsubscribing is, and it's really about a customer service approach. You want to make sure that if you're communicating to someone and then they have a decision to make, are they just going to mark you as junk and you're forever gone? Or if you make it easy to unsubscribe, and when they do go to that page, you are offering them the ability to control what you're communicating with them, that's going to be a positive experience for them. They could still end up unsubscribing, but giving those choices and putting them in control of it is more likely to keep them as someone who's going to stay with you, or to target them better because you have their preferences. That's still a best practice, and that's the best way to have great customer service. All right, so let's talk about um, how to avoid sending too many emails. So this is the challenge as a marketing operations manager and director. My entire career is every email is important every time. So we want us to send it just as quickly and to as broadly as possible. But that's really not a way to do it, because we know that that's going to be a very bad um, challenge for us. So uh, one of the ways you can do this is avoid sending too many emails is to have a comprehensive email calendar. And this is where you literally put on the calendar where everyone can see what email you're sending for which campaign, when, and they can see how this will flow out. This may be possible in smaller organizations, or it may be more effective to not only plan, but execute campaigns by region, because you may want to adjust the timing and the frequency based on regional preferences and habits. And so giving control to the regions to have input and to make those adjustments is a better way. And then they can look more closely at your calendar and so forth. Um, you might consider an AI email fatigue solution. such as the Advanced Intelligence solution from Oracle. Um, we're actually looking to get a customer to come to an upcoming office hours and talk about how they are using it so you can actually ask questions when somebody has it in use. So I'm not going to cover this today, but if you would like us to do that, please let us know in the Q&A if you have more interest in learning about the advanced intelligence and the fatigue solutions there. So what I'm going to talk about next is about stoplights. And stoplights is an easy way for you to build controls into your campaigns to avoid overcommunication and causing email fatigue.
Richard, but before you go on, we did get another question that came in via Q&A you might want to address in that last
Great.
section. And specifically, it's, have you seen Eloqua automatically integrate well with any email calendars?
The answer is no, not recently. Way back, I've seen a couple of calendars that would integrate with Eloqua, but they're no longer on the market. So, although there might be some custom solutions that people are using, but me personally, I don't have any experience with calendaring solutions that work great. Okay.
Great, thank you.
And then lastly, how many is too many? And that's the age-old question. Uh, that is something that is very dependent on your own audience and the people you're sending to. So test, measure, look at the engagement rates and so forth. And this will give you an idea of whether you're sending too many or too few. Um, so, and it also depends by the kind of email you're sending out. Like I mentioned before, if it's onboarding, then they're expecting it. And so frequency daily is going to be just fine. If it's a drip or a nurture, it may not be vital or critical that it come every day or every week. So, adjust it. Newsletters and event-driven things, they might need to become more frequently on a regular schedule. So they may need to go even if there are other emails that are already on the calendar. But a stoplight is one way to automate this. So if you have a campaign that has flexibility to send, then you can use these two different stoplights to add some controls. So the first one is you ask the question, is it okay to send? And basically this will check to see if there's no email sent in the last X days, then proceed. And you can go forward. So it'll keep a gap between emails. The next one is ask the question, is it not okay to send? And this is primarily about having more than X emails in a period of time. So you might say that over a period of 2 weeks, I only want 3 emails of the type that we're throttling and going to have these in there. So you can put these controls in to make this happen. So let me show you what this looks like. So here's our campaign canvas. You can see here, it's going to get our first email. It's going to go wait 5 days, and then it's going to go. It's going to go period. You might have it configured to go on weekdays, but that's not really a control between normal email days. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a stoplight. So here's our stoplight that's going to use a contact filter. It's going to check, is it okay to email? And this one's configured for 3 days. So we can see here, okay to email. Have they not sent any emails within the last 3 days? And if so, then it's going to go down the yes path. And it's going to send. If not, it's going to go down the wait path, and it's going to pause for a day, and then it's going to reevaluate. So this is a great way to put in a small delay to make sure there's a gap. And this could be 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever you want it to be. You can create as many as you would like. You can do this. Or you can add the other one I'd mentioned is you can put a cap on the number of emails that go in a particular period. And this one, I've set it up for a maximum of 3 times in 7 days. That's probably too many in a week, likely too many in a week, maybe over 14 days. But this is how you set it up. You check to see have they sent any emails from groups, and you must select all the groups. There's no feature to do any email in Eloqua right now, but you can select all your groups and then configure this. And then the way it'll work is if it's not okay, then it's going to go down the yes path and it's going to hold it. Otherwise, it's going to let them go on. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to proceed. So if you do have questions about this, please ask them, and then I'll come back at the end and we'll be able to talk about those. So a soft bounce back program. I mentioned before that it's important to monitor your soft bounce backs. Look at the messaging report, check the details about that, and see what you can do with it. So I've developed this program based on some other people's work. I didn't come out of this, invent this myself. I'm borrowing from many people who have offered a similar solution. But this is a way for you to identify those who are bouncing frequently, and then you can action them. So this is how we're going to do our segment. It's going to check to see if they're marked as a soft bounce within the last day. And if they are, it's going to run an update rule that's going to increase a counter on the contact. So it's going to increase soft bounce by 1. And this is what it looks like in the update rule. So you can see increment by 1. So it's very simple. And then it has a step here where if the soft bounce is greater than 5, and the 5 is the arbitrary number that I've put in my example here, if they bounce more than 5 times before I've cleared it, I want to add them to a shared list so I can take action on it. Otherwise, it's going to pass down and then they can be added again the next day if they soft bounce again. And then on the right-hand side, we have how you're going to process those. So we have our segment that has that shared list inside of it. And in the middle here, under the wait step, this is where we're going to take the action that we've decided to make based on our analysis, based on our best practices and our policies. And then once they have cleared that, then we're going to use one of my favorite apps that I use. This is a cloud app that we make that allows you to do, oops, I'm going the wrong way. This allows you to do an update rule on the canvas without leaving. You can just do it right here, and you can do more than one. So here's a shameless plug for this. Now, you notice that I specifically avoided the details around exactly how you're going to disposition these soft bounce specs. And the reason is it's, again, dependent on your organization, your approach to handling soft bounces. You might do a manual list review based on the report. Look at the shared list and look at those. Try to understand what's going on here and why you're having these soft bounces. It's likely to give you some actionable information. You find yourself on a spam block list that you weren't before, you can take action. You could go so far as add that person to a master exclude or the list to a master exclude, and they're automatically going to be stopped. However, if you do that, if they are in a email step, they will be stuck there, and you will have to manually progress them if they come out of the soft bounce list. So just bear that in mind. That's a drastic step, but it is a valid one. You can also use routing to work around this to get it back to another decision step. But again, it's not automatic. My recommendation is to start with the manual list review and see if you can take action to do that, and then move up with other actions that you can take place. So with that, let's see if we have questions. I'll turn it back to you, Al.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, we did have some more questions that came through. One is, what are your thoughts on the advanced intelligence email fatigue solution? And is that something that you can respond to at this point?
You bet. Yes. Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I don't have any personal experience with that solution. And we are working with Oracle to get a customer to come to one of our office hours. So I think it's better that we can present the capabilities, but then have an actual customer who's used it, who can give practical answers to how they're using it and where they find value in it. So that's how we'll plan to address that in a future event.
Great. And it looks like we had another question, but they actually responded that you addressed their question during your presentation. So I think that that does it for Q&A at the moment. If you have any final questions before we wrap up today's session, please submit them now or follow up with us separately. We'll be happy to answer those as well. All right. And